From Washington, this is VOA News. Coming up, NATO summit focusing on Ukraine. Ebola experts work on solutions to the epidemic. NATO leaders are taking part in a high-stakes summit in Britain. Leaders from 28 countries and the U.S. European military alliance met Thursday in Wales. NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen says alliance would take steps to counter the Islamic State and Moscow's intervention in Ukraine, but it's unclear what new measures NATO might adopt.
We will discuss what individual allies and what NATO can do to counter the threat from the terrorist organization, the so-called Islamic State.
The summit continues Friday with a focus on the security of NATO's neighbors and bordering Russia. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko says if a peace agreement is signed with pro-Russia separatists on Friday, he will order government forces to observe a bilateral ceasefire. Pro-Russia separatist leaders on Thursday said that they would also order a ceasefire if representatives of Ukraine sign a plan for a political settlement of the conflict. Top diplomat says the U.S. will soon launch a major border security program to help Nigeria and neighboring countries fight the militant group Boko Haram. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs Linda Thomas-Greenfield says the frequency and scope of Boko Haram's terror attacks have grown more acute and constitute a serious threat to Nigeria's overall security. She spoke to officials in the Nigerian capital Abuja on Thursday as Nigerian newspapers reported that militants have seized the city of Bama and other locations in northeastern state of Borno. This is VOA News. About 200 experts on Ebola meeting in Switzerland to discuss possible cures and vaccines for the disease. World Health Organization says the two-day conference in Geneva will review recent developments and possible treatments for Ebola. West African Ebola outbreak has killed more than 1,900 people, most of them in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. 2 car bombs exploded in the Shiite majority neighborhoods of Baghdad on Thursday, killing at least 17, 49 others wounded. There was no claim of responsibility. And Al-Qaeda's leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri, says the terrorist group will be active in the Indian subcontinent, targeting India, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. Anjana Pasricha reports.
Indian intelligence agencies issued alerts across the country hours after Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri threatened to raise the flag of jihad and spread Islamic rule on the Indian subcontinent. In a 55-minute video posted online, Zawahiri said Al-Qaeda's new unit in the subcontinent would rescue Muslims from injustice and oppression in the Indian states of Gujarat, Assam and Kashmir, and in Bangladesh and Myanmar. India's Home Minister Rajnath Singh met with top security officials to discuss the threat. He said intelligence agencies are analyzing the video to establish its authenticity. Anjana Pasricha, New Delhi.
Afghan officials say a Taliban attack on a government compound in the country's east killed at least 12 people, wounded at least 80 others. Police say the assailants set off 2 huge truck bombs Thursday outside the office of Afghanistan's spy agency in Ghazni province. 8 police officers were among the dead. Officials say the explosions were followed by gun battles with Afghan security forces that killed 19 of the attackers. U.S. Justice Department will conduct a civil rights investigation into the police department of the Midwestern city of Ferguson, Missouri, where an unarmed 18-year-old African-American male was fatally shot by a white police officer during a street confrontation last month. Attorney General Eric Holder says the probe was prompted by accusations from the community that the primarily white police force systematically discriminates against the city's African-American residents. A U.S. judge ruled that British oil giant BP was grossly negligent in the 2010 explosion of an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico that killed 11 workers, spewed millions of liters of oil into the waters off the southern U.S. coast. And pioneering American comedian Joan Rivers, whose self-deprecating humor and gossipy jokes about show business kept millions laughing for 50 years, has died at the age of 81. She died Thursday in New York.
That's the latest world news from VOA.